Yep. So finally, we're here. It was a hard one to schedule, but we are here in a new session with eAfterWork. The last session we did was in May, the last month. So we are pulling this out just in time before the end of the month. Thank you, Ismail, for joining us today. How are you doing?
Hi. Thank you for having me. Very happy that we're able to talk. We've been
Yeah.
exchanging for a while now, and yeah, glad to be
Yeah.
here.
Indeed, it was hard to align our schedules, but I'm happy that we were able to make it happen. Before getting into the details and talking about our topics today, the subject of today is going to be an interesting one because we are talking about something interesting, something that at the same time is related to AI, but at the same time it's a little bit away of AI. We are talking about streaming and how this concept is getting back to the scene, namely nowadays with everything that's happening to the AI and in the AI universe. Before talking about our technical subject today, we have a unique guest, Ismail. And I'm saying this because you have a unique path that leads you to where you are today. You have a lot of experiences, a lot of um, uh, subject matter in terms of observability. We are going to dig into the details of this, but I'm just going to leave you, tell us a few words about you, and then we are going to dig deeper into every detail of your experience. So if you leave
Yeah,
anything out, we're gonna dig it. Do not worry.
yeah, of course, yeah. So it's true that I have kind of a interesting career, I would say,
Mhm,
in the sense that well, the first time you contacted me, I was actually working at Splunk as a solution engineer,
mhm,
so more on the go-to-market team and well, working with customers in terms of pre-sales. And I've had doing this for the past 8 years, so quite a ride from 2017 to last year, where I decided to leave. And so really on the observability space as we know it to go and collect data, being able to then get insight from those data and alerts, kind of really the observability play. And then I switched to a different company, which is called Lenses, where we deal with streaming data. And especially providing tooling around Kafka.
mhm.
So I'm still doing engineering, but because it's I would say a smaller company, you do a lot more into your jobs, and the streaming world is also a quite complex and quite complex subject. So I also get to touch on a lot of different things, and most recently AI. So yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you went from a big enterprise, and you spent a lot of years there working on as a solution engineer. Always was that the title that you had there? Solution
Yeah,
engineer.
so
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So we used to be called a sales engineer,
Okay.
but the industry realized that if you have sales in your role, you scare the engineers that you want to talk to.
Yeah.
So then they switched to the term solution engineer. Um, and yeah, so that's what I've been doing for a long time. I started with smaller accounts,
Mhm.
uh, so I knew nothing about sales engineering. In 2017, I had more of a very basic how do I say, like engineering background in computer science, telecommunication, and network. I did that as a developer,
Mhm.
and then I discovered that one and switched to solution engineering, where you're really working with customers. So most of your time is spent trying to understand customer issues, problems, and try to solve those with software.
So basically, your job as a solution engineer is to leverage your technical knowledge, but for a sales objective or a sales final goal, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the goal is to sell the software
Mm.
to the user, and to have that solution that they purchase and that they implement, right?
Yeah, and I understand that your background was basically, or academic background was technical, and then you switched to the sales position. Were there any like things that you had to learn, or was there like a switch in your mindset or a switch in your the way you approach things that you needed to have when you switched to sales, or how was the switch? Was it an easy one or was it a hard one?
That's a great question. I think what happened is I was doing software engineering, and what I say often is, when you're a software engineer, you love to produce the code. You're really hands-on, solving problems
Mhm.
with the machine and trying to produce a result. Um, but then what I realized is that you're really isolated, right? You're doing your work on your side, and then you produce your feature, and then it's shipped somewhere,
Mhm.
but you don't really have a lot of impact into why did we start the project in the first place, what was the right solution, and also you don't really speak a lot during your day, which I love to do. I'm very curious, very passionate with talking with other people, and what I realized is once the stand up in the morning was done, well,
Mhm.
that was pretty much the whole conversation I had for the whole day. So um,
It's
I
it's
had already, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, tell me.
it's interesting the way you put it. You say that talking is one of the things that make your day interesting. A lot of people would say the opposite. I mean, what they want to do is to be more productive in their development work rather than have this exchange with the human to human. I think that's an interesting way to put the role of a solution engineer or someone who has this sales hat and they have to have those skills of communication.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely. I mean, like when it comes to solution engineering, if you don't like to interact with people, I think it's not that's something that you have to want to do, because you're going to always be pushed to talk to people. When I say talking to people,
Mhm.
um, well, the first thing and the first rule in sales is that you have to listen. A lot of the time is spent listening to the problems, listening to the issues that the customer may have, because they are the ones who comes with like requirements and needs. So you spend a lot of time listening, and you
Mhm.
do go and present the value of your solution. So you also have to be convincing when you talk. The talking is it's not just a chit chat, right? Like there is an objective on both sides. One is to find solutions to problem, and the other is to actually have the software being sold, right?
Correct. And when you used to work with Splunk, your position was basically on observability, or was it around the whole solution? Or
Yeah, so so this is also an interesting one, because so I didn't really have a lot of cybersecurity background at the time, and for me, cybersecurity basically meant, well, because I was developing in C#, so it was like, which package have you used?
Mhm.
Is this one say roughly safe? We didn't really have a lot of tooling.
Mhm.
And then we had a security team somewhere, which I've never met, which was doing this. So
Mhm.
when I interview for the job, I told them, I'm more a DevOps person, more into developing,
Mhm.
and like, is this a good place for me to be coming to Splunk? And they say,
Mhm.
yeah, no problems. We cover all use cases. We cover security, we cover IT ops, we cover DevOps. Like your knowledge is going to be very valuable.
Mhm.
Uh, Turns out that when I joined, most of the revenue and most of the use cases were coming from the security world, with a SIEM platform, which was all around, how you detect, like security incidents, and I had to learn on the spot. But
Mhm.
I think when you have technical knowledge, when you've had that uh, also like education that I had, it's very easy to kind of pick up on the themes, right?
Nice. So you spent like 6 years there, right?
So I spent 8 years.
8 years.
The first 4 years were more around really like security use cases,
Hmm.
and then what happened is they have done an acquisition of a company called Signal Effects,
Hmm.
which was like a proper observability platform
Hmm.
with an application performance monitoring solution, so an APM. And when they've purchased that platform, what also happened is that they've built this platform into a full stack observability platform. So they've added other modules to it. So I saw how through acquisition they've kind of packed up also synthetics monitoring for the front end. They've also added the logs engine that was doing the logs. They've also added other solution to make it a full observability platform as we know them now.
That's interesting. So it is safe to call you an observability expert, right?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say I've I've seen a lot of change, a lot of good stuff happening. I also had the chance to be sitting with some of the Open Telemetry founders. We also joined the platform, the company through acquisition.
Hmm.
So I've learned a lot from them. They made me an expert. All right.
Perfect. And then comes this switch where you decided to leave this behind and join another company, which is Lenses. What does Lenses and your position today have in common with your previous experience?
Yeah, so what I would say is that fundamentally, in terms of the role, it's pretty similar.
Hmm.
It's always the same sales cycle as we call it.
Hmm.
For everyone on here, like you always have a phase of discovery of the needs of the customers. Then you have some presentations and demos that you do. You will have at some point some proof points to just prove that the solution does that what it's able to do. And then you have a phase where you talk about more of the implementation and how that fits into the environment once you've made the decision to purchase the software. So I'm covering all of those different aspects. The only part of sales I don't do and never really did was prospecting and actually calling the prospect to have the first call. So I'm doing the same at Splunk that I'm doing at
Yeah,
Lenses.
I'm interested to know like the stages of the sales process. So you talked about prospecting, and then you told about the other two or three stages that you have. Would you mind like walking us through the whole stages or a pipeline of sales or something, and then tell us like the positions that are there and what's required in each position?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so you have more of a sales person that would be in charge of what we call, calling the new prospect, potential
Mhm.
prospect, or you have some customers that actually come through your website that discover you in conferences or other marketing event that you have. So those first conversations are kind of done by the salesperson,
Mhm.
and then they introduce usually me when in that phase which we call discovery. And the discovery is really a phase where we try to understand if there is a match, right? We try to understand, is the person providing the service a service that would actually benefit me as a customer,
Mhm.
um, and provide the value that I need. And on our side, it's also like, can we solve the problem that this customer has? And is this a customer that we want to also spend time with to kind of help them with that solution? Like in sales, the everything is kind of led by time. It's
Mhm.
always you have to work on a schedule. So we want to make sure that the customer makes the most of their time, and we actually also make sure that we also have a good use of our time, right? Because if we use this time with this customer, maybe we're not using it with another customers which
There's a
may
cost of
need us more,
opportunity
right?
there. Yeah. So if you invest that time there, you're costing yourself an opportunity that you're not discovering and leveraging. So this is like
Yeah,
for the first stage, which is the discovery, right? And
yeah,
then what,
correct.
what, what comes after the discovery?
So after the discovery, we will have a phase which is going to be more around, like demonstration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we will demonstrate, and by demonstrating, what you're doing basically is that you're going to make sure that you understand what the needs and the requirements of the customers are. You map them with features and also, some type of presentation of your solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
You make sure that you still have a match in there, and based on that phase, the customer decides if he wants to pursue into the sales cycle,
Mm-hmm.
or if they feel like based on the presentation, well, actually this is not exactly what we wanted it to do. So it kind of help us to align a lot more on the sales.
All right. So up until now, we talked about two stages, which is the first stage, which is the discovery, and then the second stage, which is the POC and the demo. Um, I'm curious to know, how do you measure the success of these two stages? I mean, for me as an individual, if I spend time with the in a discovery phase and I do not sign a client, for me it's a loss. But I think in with an enterprise mindset, it's a different thing, because it's not a loss; it's time that you have saved, not going through with other phases or not trying to invest more time in this. Is it like some kind of a metric or something that would mm, you use as an enterprise grad approach to say that we measure the success this way and not that way?
Yeah, no, so I think it's a great question. I think where what we do is that when you have a first touch point with a customer, usually you talk to a customer who maybe is part of a team or is part of a project, and you have usually a lot of different stakeholder in that in the enterprise world.
Hmm.
Um, and the first touch point that you have with that person, you probably maybe have them alone. So you want to make sure that you actually are able to talk to, you know, as many stakeholders on the project as possible, as
Hmm.
many decision maker as possible. If you think about what the study says, is that in the enterprise words, an industry like Gartner says that you have up to 11 decision maker on a purchase. So you have a
Hmm.
lot of eyes that comes into, what the, what the decision is going to be based on. And what you realize is that usually it's not really formalized. It's not really formalized. It's in the head of the customer, but it's not formalized as to, exactly what the requirements are.
Hmm.
The discovery phase is extremely important in the enterprise world to make sure that you've not missed any requirements that gonna be a need, that you understand who is involved in the sales, and that you understand really deeply the requirements. And then internally, you want to make sure that they are aligned as well and they're ready to move forward.
Yeah. So basically, if I may rephrase this, you're saying that you take the or you consider the customer or the client as someone who has ideas but they're not structured, and you're trying to help them structure their ideas and understand their need, and check if this aligns with what you offer. So basically, you're more helping the client rather than trying to sell them or trying to push them to go into the sales phase, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a partnership.
Mhm.
It's it only makes sense to go into a sales cycle if we know that we're going to provide value.
Mhm.
And there is a very pragmatic approach to it, is that what we want is our clients that are going to be the flagship of our software, and we
Mhm.
want to keep those clients for a long time. We may even sell several times into a client when you're in enterprise, because you have so many employees, so many departments. So you want to make sure that you spend the time up front so that you can keep that customer long term.
And how do you manage this or these incentives? Because for me, if I'm a sales engineer, I would only care about throwing clients into the pipeline so that I can make my numbers look bigger and bigger, and I would not, because if the metric is objective and I'm caring about the numbers, what incentive would you give me to care about the customer?
Yeah, well, I would say, there is no better way,
Mm,
because so first of all, sales is all about getting the customers to take a decision, but you
mhm.
want to make sure that decision, they're owning that decision. There is a character in
What does that mean?
the
What does that mean by owning the decision?
as in, they are happy that they've made that decision. And what happens often in enterprise is that you start that sales process, but then the person at the customer becomes what we call a champion.
Mhm,
And that champion is selling on your behalf because they're so happy with the software that they've purchased. They,
mhm,
they find that it's providing so much value that they're going to be the one talking to their colleagues about, this is something that you should be using. Like look at how more productive we are with this software, what it helped us to do. This is what I've built for ourselves. And
mhm,
you find often that your best seller is your customer.
mhm,
um, Sometimes you can even find ways where you're talking to a customer and they want to also know, well, who have you sold to? Who else in my industry have you sold to? Is there someone I can call that has done the same as you? That I can meet so
mhm.
that I can maybe reproduce what they've done, right?
Okay.
And yeah, so that's why you should really care about the customer a lot.
Mhm,
Uh, from a sales perspective, it's more money in your pocket, but
mhm.
it's also helping your brand and your reputation.
So you're telling me basically that the incentive is um, the signing of the client. Any client that you don't sign is a waste of your time, and that would push me to not just bring anybody there, but I would only bring in the clients or the pipelines that are worth the time or the worth the investment. So basically, it's like I'm investing my time and I'm bringing in clients, but if the clients do not go over the pipeline and finish by signing, then I'm not getting any incentive out of it, right?
Yeah, so I mean, for us, what we do in that phase of discovery, we qualify the client, and we're not afraid to say, maybe we're not the best fit. Maybe if you're looking for a solution like this, and you're looking for this type you have this type of requirements, maybe we're not the best fit. And
Mhm,
very early, we'll tell them, we don't want to invest more time with you, because we think like it's not going to be a good partnership. My whole role at Splunk was to build as many partnership as possible.
mhm,
Some of the customer I signed very early in 2017. When they
mhm.
see me in conferences, even up to today, they come up, they talk, they share things with us. It's not, yeah, they feel like we have that trust, right? And
Okay.
trust is super important in sales.
So basically, your role as a sales engineer, or not a sales engineer, but a solution engineer, is to build that personal brand that belongs to the enterprise in the same time. So you're building your personal brand, but at the same time, you're building the brand of the enterprise you're working for, right?
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Perfect. So now, up until now, we talk about the discovery stage. What comes after the discovery stage?
Yeah, so then you have more of a. So I've talked about the demonstration. I think it's pretty easy. Everyone has saw,
Mhm,
demonstration of a software. The other phase is what we call a proof of concept,
mhm,
or a proof event, which would be trying the solution.
mhm,
So what we saw is often the customer likes to do trials, free trials. They want to be able to implement it on their own.
mhm,
Um, but that process is sometimes very inefficient, I
mhm,
would say, because even though you've tried the solution, internally, if you don't have the buy-in of people, if you don't know how to present those results, who to present those results, how to present those results, um, it's going to be very difficult to actually get to implementing the solution. So the proof event is a guided process where we, the vendor and the customers are involved, come together around, what we want to test, what
Mhm.
success looks like, and then playing back the results. Uh, and if it's successful, it's going into purchasing the solution.
That's interesting. What I would like is to we can take an example of this and talk about lenses or applied in lenses as a use case. But before doing this, would you give us like a brief description of what your company today, which is lenses, does, and how was the switch from Splunk to lenses was?
Yeah. So Lenses as a solution, uh, we are a platform that gives autonomy to developers to be able to build on streaming application. And we cover three main use cases, which are going to be around building application with Kafka,
Mhm.
being able to troubleshoot application with Kafka, and being able to modernize and migrate existing applications.
And so you went from a position where you had observability in general and you have a very wide field to a very specific field. Um, Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's interesting because initially what I thought I was going to be doing and what I thought I understood of the solution was that I was going to be doing basically observability for Kafka.
Hmm.
That's what I thought. I thought it was a specialized tool just for Kafka specifically, which is a very complicated platform.
Hmm.
Um, which there is some aspect of it in there, but what I understood is that I also entered the realm of data observability. So Kafka is a solution that helps to move data from A to B, that helps to also um, support event-driven applications, event-driven architecture.
Hmm.
And what I realized is that it was also uh, what we also wanted to do is being able to observe and explore the data itself, right? So
Hmm.
not just what are my outputs, what are the logs generated, the metrics, the throughputs of messages that I have coming in, but
Hmm.
also, well, what is the data itself? Like show me the messages that are going through the tube, and and what's the shape of it, what's the schema that I'm using to that I have, what's the structure of those messages, and then you're looking into more like, is the data clean, is it accurate, is it complete, and yeah, you really go into the wire.
So basically, it's a management layer that comes on top of an existing product, which is an open source product, which is Kafka, and your objective out of this is to help or to make the life of the developers and the users of this technology, which is Kafka, easier with your product. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, that's completely safe, making them more productive. One thing that people may or may not know is that Kafka, when it was built initially,
Hmm.
was not built with a UI. There was no UI for Kafka.
Yeah.
And so it came with basically, obviously a need for a simpler way to explore data.
Hmm.
And that's where Lenses came in. Lenses has been here for a long time now, and at the very beginning of Kafka, they were here to provide that solution.
Interesting. How big is the market of Kafka? I mean, is it so you mentioned you talked about all the use cases of Kafka because some people would just say that Kafka is for streaming, some other use it as a buffer, others use it as event-driven for event development. Some use it for just for decoupling the microservices, etc. Um, According to your experience, how big is the market of the of Kafka in general. Then we can talk about lenses.
Yeah, well, what we see is that every enterprise, like you have 80% of the Fortune 100 that's using Kafka. So you have a lot of adoptions
You say
of
eighty
that solution.
percent? See?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's adopted by a lot of the Fortune 100, and then you have a lot of company of every size that use it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the exact size of the market, but what I can tell you is that there's been recently the acquisition of Confluent, which is the main Kafka provider in the industry by IBM, and that was an acquisition for $11 billion. So we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about like some big markets on the Kafka side.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then you have the tooling for Kafka. Obviously, it's more niche.
Mm-hmm.
That would be for companies that are looking for enterprise tooling,
Mm-hmm.
which is where we shine the most. Um, because the tool that we provide, the software that we provide, is mainly targeted for companies that have, you know, a quite wide estate of Kafka,
Mm-hmm.
and also sometimes often comes with governance challenges around, because when you give access to the data, you also want to be able to control who accesses the data, what data they've accessed, and you make sure that they have least privilege when it comes to sensitive information.
So you do offer a lot of sub products in the solution in the product itself. You have like multiple options. Would you mind giving us more technical details about like what are you talked about the security and the governance. Would you mind telling us about the others and yeah, if you can tell us about those sub products.
Yeah, yeah. So what I would say is Lenses is really a Swiss Army knife. So it really does a lot of things. We have a lot of tooling inside of the platform. So as I mentioned first, we are able to explore the data. We have something called a SQL engine.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the strengths is that we're able to query the topics of Kafka the same way you would query a database using plain SQL.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the SQL Studio. That's the base of the solution. So then you
Mm-hmm.
can see your different messages. We have on top of this also a way to explore multi-Kafka. So if you have data into maybe a development environment, staging environment, and production environments, you can see and compare the data that you have. You can do it across different Kafka clusters. So we connect to multiple Kafka clusters. Um, you're also able to see the configuration of that Kafka cluster. So you have admin kind of knowledge of the configuration of Kafka, and you can see also some telemetry. If
Mm-hmm.
is my Kafka up, down, what's the load, the messages at a point in time. Um, then we have other main products around being able to uh, build with Kafka. So building with Kafka would mean being able to create test topics and being able to generate data,
Mm-hmm.
being able to process data. So we have something called SQL processors, which helps to transform, filter data. It's an abstraction of Kafka Stream, which help us to work with the stream and transform that data. And then we have a set of connectors that help you to get data out of Kafka and connect to S3 or like other connectors, and we do the management of it through the UI.
Interesting. I think we went into the details, but we forgot to define first the product. Is it a software or is it a SaaS? We forgot to talk about how the options that you offer for the products.
Yeah, so it's again when you look at these and who our customers are, A lot of
Mhm.
those customers are enterprise companies. They use Kafka as the backbone of their application. It's often things that they want to be able to have a control of. So we deploy as software. We're not SaaS. We don't have a cloud platform. You're not sending your sensitive information to the cloud. Um, we have a software that you deploy on premise in
Mhm.
Kubernetes or on VMs.
That's cool. And in what stage are you today? Is it startup, scale up, or is it a listed company?
Yeah, so something which I did not mention is the company has been acquired and is part of the group, the Celonis Group.
Okay.
Celonis is a German company which offers solutions around process mining
Hmm.
to be able to understand the processes that have to do um, with a company. You can think of supply chain processes or like pricing processes, etc., etc.
Oh, congratulations on that. When did that happen?
So this happened in 2021.
Oh, that's cool. So now that we had some technical insights on the company, we go back to the sales, and I have an interesting question for you. What is the difference between the position that of a solution engineer that you have mentioned now, and then the go-to-market engineer, according to you?
So yeah, so what I would say is, and what I've seen honestly in the industry is more and more the traditional way that pre-sales was done, which is you have a first point of contact, which is a solution engineer who is not really technical
Hmm.
and who maybe addresses your issue at maybe a more higher level,
Hmm.
um, is not really what customer wants today.
Hmm.
Today, I think the customers are more and more informed. They go online, they watch podcasts like yours, they document themselves, and even in first calls they already have a lot of information and knowledge, so they expect more from their engineers.
Hmm.
They want their solution engineers to be more technical, to be able to talk at their levels, which I would say is one of the difference there is now with more go-to-market engineers. Often are also in smaller structured, so you don't have a lot of people that you can pass the ball to. You have to own the technical expertise.
Hmm.
That's one aspect. And at the same time, you have to be able to talk to executives and talk in their language and translate technical terms into business terms, because that's what the executive at the customer wants to be able to talk about.
So basically, having this capacity to have two hats, one hat that is able to just talk numbers and statistics and be able to explain things at a high level, and then another hat that would go deep into the technicalities of the tool and what happens behind the scenes, is etc. That's
Yep.
that. Yeah, that's a great definition. Um, you've been in the market, or in the professional market, for a couple of years now. Mm, Now that, and Kafka as well have been on the market for a couple of years now. Um, since 2022, we had the emergence of AI and the LMs and all the things that are happening now in the market. Um, did you see a shift of the usage of that tool, and by extension, Lenses, which is the tool that you're promoting and you work for? Did you see uh, some kind of switch or change in the demand of the tool, or a change in the way the tool is used across the years? Or yeah, I'm open to your perspective and your opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So AI has come in full-fledged with generative AI, and it's amazing what you can do now with generative AI. And I remember the headlines that were around, software is dead, because now you can basically vibe code your application in a weekend and create all of those applications.
Mm.
But what we realized is that once you've vibe coded your application, then you have to think about security and governance and SLAs, and you need to also make sure that you have support for the application, and and then you go back into, well, you need to sell enterprise software in the same way that it was done before. And then you go back to your vendors and you realize that they also start to use AI themselves, and they're more productive, and they ship more features, and they're able to actually help you probably at a better deal. So yeah. So what I would say is this is kind of the little bit of the story. So when I joined, that's when the company started to really start to implement AI to help build the software.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been able to do that, make the a shift, a great shift in the product toolset. Some of the product features I've talked about, they've been shipped basically in the last year. So a lot of change that AI has helped us to do. And then what we also started to see is that in terms of AI, if you think about how you chat with your chatbot first, and like maybe application that could be leveraging AI, one of the things we've talked about a lot is the context of the data
Mm-hmm.
that needs to be provided. Um, and what we realize as well is that, well, maybe one of the best way to have data that's being stored, that's available, and that gives good context
Mm-hmm.
is actually Kafka. And you see more and more Kafka coming back in the architectures of AI, modern AI application.
So you mean like people using the Kafka as the tool as like some context source for some knowledge base or some somewhere where they can store their context and then make it available to agents instantly, right?
Yeah, so it's just going to be part of that new architecture completely.
Right. That's it. I mean, the joke that you talked about the fact that software engineering is dead. I remember seeing all those articles and LinkedIn articles every time saying, "Oh, whenever there is a new model that comes with a huge context, they just would say, oh, RAG is dead because there is no need to have an external knowledge." But at the end of the day, you realize that context is not everything, and you need to optimize a lot of stuff. And the database is going to be there, the knowledge base should be there, and somewhere where you store your documents to be accessible quickly should be there. And I think Kafka also should be there by extension. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's an interesting way to look at it. Um, do you have any examples or numbers of your customers that you want to share with us in terms of what you achieved today with the Lances and Kafka? To have
Yeah,
it
no,
work
absolutely. Yeah, so who do we work with, right? Like, who do we work with, and
right.
what do we offer our customers? So I can talk about a few ones. Um, One is a company that's called Arity. So
Mm-hmm.
Arity is a company that collects data from cars,
Mm-hmm.
and gets all of that telemetry in one space. And what they build are data products, which are then used by insurance to be able to understand driver behaviors based on a lot of different dimensions, which helps car insurers to be able to price their insurance better, and to give better products. Um, they've been running Kafka for a long time, and they were doing this on a legacy platform, and they
Mm-hmm.
needed to migrate to the cloud. So when you migrate any data, when you have this type of migration, and you have to do this and at the same time continue to have the business running, um, these can be very, very complex. So they wanted to have a tool to get the visibility of making sure that they migrate correctly, to be able to also make sure that they are able to reproduce the right configuration, and at the same time they wanted, when they do the migration, to optimize also their deployment. So they've used Lenses. We've helped them with that migration, and they've been able to really be quicker in that, and at the same time being accurate, right? Have that safety that they've migrated correctly.
That's interesting. So basically, the tool allowed them to solve their problems of being able to have control and to monitor their change or their upgrade or the switch to cloud. Correct?
Yeah, so that really helped them to move to the cloud quicker,
Mhm.
and to then optimize. And when we talk about optimization, they've been able to reduce the cost up to 40% on their Kafka deployment. Uh, so it's not all because of us; it's also because of the solution they've used, which is uh, which is a managed cloud platform. But it really helped them to have that tool to measure all of this.
Okay, so if you want to pitch the lenses, do you pitch it more as a cost saver or productivity booster, or how would you pitch it rather? The
Yeah,
first
so
one.
what I would, yeah,
Mhm,
so the basic pitch is that in any enterprise company, you have 10 developers, you probably have only two that are experts,
mhm,
and the other eight, they're not really experts, so they rely a lot on your experts to do. You have a bottleneck in there. If you want to really unlock the productivity of your developers, and you probably have a backlog of application that you need to build, uh,
mhm.
you need to use a tool like Lenses, which is going to make it easier to adopt Kafka.
That's interesting. So you mentioned that you use AI for the development of the tool, which is something that I think your developers and your internal teams are using. Are you also offering tools that are based on AI within the product? Is it something also that you ship?
Yeah, so we also do have so we also went into the realm of agentic engineering,
The hype,
and what
the hype
and
of
what
it, right?
yeah, so it's yeah, but at the same time it does unlock a lot of things, right? Like, it really makes you, if there is something that makes you more productive, is to plug your general LLM to a solution that
Okay.
has the right context, right?
Right.
What we saw is, you have different use cases, ones that are more around how you're able to be more productive with Kafka. So that would
Mhm,
be around AI helping you to govern the data, build with AI, and to be able to troubleshoot with AI. So
mhm,
those are more like operation and development use cases.
mhm,
And then you have use cases that are more around, how could I use Kafka to build real-time application? Right? How
mhm.
can you use Kafka to provide context, to store maybe valuable information, and help me build AI application? So the second one, which is the most interesting one,
Mhm,
uh, I've not really seen a lot of customers. Like, I've seen customers thinking about it. We see the players talking about it as well, but I've not seen concrete application of it. Where
mhm,
I've seen adoptions and need is around, like, how can I build faster? How can I troubleshoot faster? How can I govern the data, making sure that, the data is not exposing any sensitive data? And what we've done is, well, we already had the dashboards in Lenses.
mhm.
We're just exposing them through an MCP server, and that MCP servers, can then be used by agents to do that work.
Interesting. I think this is the right approach to it today, because if you think about I mean, building your own model or building your own LLM infrastructure is kind of impossible because you cannot compete with the big actors in the market. And the fact that you only say that we're gonna be AI native, and everything that we do, we're gonna offer it either through MCP server. We're gonna have skills that would describe what we're doing, etc. And then we leave you the freedom of choice to plug in whatever model you want. Um, we can create the infrastructure, the harness, and then it's up to you to bring in the the engine or the LM that is going to power it. I think this is the right approach to go about it,
Yeah,
right?
it's absolutely. I completely agree. It's bring your own LLM. We'll never have the all of the money of an OpenAI and AI to create and build those fantastic models. For me, this is infrastructure. We use the sorry, yeah, we it's infrastructure. We use that infrastructure to to have a real application of it, right?
Yeah, I'm curious to know if the clients that you have today or the customers, um, what are they requesting from the AI perspective? Are they asking you to maintain the MCP servers? Are they asking you to have your own skill? I mean, what? I mean, you know that there are many categories today that the AI fills into. Which one are your clients leaning into? This is like a generic question, just to know how the market is doing.
Yeah, so what we see is that customer wants to be able to, we've talked about developer productivity for years.
Hmm.
Like as much as I can remember, it's always been about, like making the developers more productive.
Hmm.
Um, if you like it's a very complex platform, Kafka, and
Hmm.
building on Kafka takes time. So that's one of the use case that comes in is building application with Kafka and with the assisted by the agent.
Hmm.
Another one that we see is troubleshooting. So troubleshooting is complex. If you think about Kafka, you have things around partitions, around consumer lag, around like very deep technical, Kafka specific issues that can happen.
Hmm.
Problem with task and connectors that fails, etc. Um, that like troubleshooting it is complicated. And if you are on a call at 3 a.m. and you have to try and understand what's going on and call 5, 6 engineers to be able to understand where the problem is, it's not great. So what we see our customers willing is an LLM that will do the analysis for them, being able to give them already some diagnosis of what the problem could be, and
Hmm.
that they can then implement a fix after, thanks to that analysis.
So basically, what you're saying is you as lenses, you already have uh, the necessary matter, matter, which is all the things that you are getting and creating on those dashboards and the information that you save. So basically, what you say is basically, why not leverage this to the maximum by allowing the user to take advantage of the data that we retrieve from those clusters and enhance it or provide it in a way that would allow that agent or that LM to be able to answer the questions easily. So you're anticipating the questions of the users and then translating those into like a couple of processes that you put behind the scenes so that whenever the user asks an LM, it will find the tools necessary to answer that question. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and that's what MCP enables. That's what MCP helps you to do, and it's great capabilities, right?
Mm.
But then, like, just going into because if it was that easy, everybody will be doing it, right? Like, I think
Correct.
it's just it will just be everywhere. But what we see is that the main issues to adopting AI today is around the governance and the security, because I think we've all seen the horror stories of the agents deleting code or doing getting access to information he should not have access to, and going rogue, basically.
Mhm.
Um, and the second one is the cost, right? If
Mhm.
you're not engineering this in the correct way, you could spend more than you could take. You could spend more in tokens that you would with just paying engineers to do the job, right? So, is there really value in there?
There,
Um,
there's always like a ratio between the value you're getting and the amount of tokens you are spending. correct?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And but the security aspect, the governance aspect, I mean, I've given you an example of a company that does a data product, but we also work with a lot of companies that are highly regulated.
Hmm.
So think about large banks, thinks about like fintech company. Think about also healthcare companies which have very sensitive informations, and what they want is they want to be able to trace what the LLM has done, what is had access to, get an audit trail of all of this, making sure that it only have very specific access.
Hmm.
And this is all that we provide with that governance layer, and it's not a easy problem to solve.
Yeah, so basically, you provide this auditing and tracing the users and making sure that you guardrailing that user in when they're doing their operations. And I think this is one of the things that became more of a requirement, namely in the European market. And talking about markets, what is your presence today in the international market and the European market?
Yeah, so we do have customers all over the globe.
Hmm.
We have customers in the US. So Arity is an American company. We have customers also in France and UK and Europe. So we have so in France, for example, I can talk about the Europe Car, which is the car rental company, which also have are using us for their connected fleet, connected vehicle. And yeah, so we have a kind of a global presence. Uh,
And the aim is to take over anything that speaks Kafka, right?
Um, yeah, so I would say anything that speaks Kafka, but as long as you have this type of problems, right? You have those problems of developer productivity. You maybe have backlogs of applications that you would want to ship. You have those governance issues and security requirements. I would say it's probably more in the enterprise world you find that, if you're a very small startup that have only one Kafka cluster,
Hmm.
probably the solution is not for you.
Yeah, and I like that the answer, and it shows the 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 embedded spirit that you mentioned at the beginning, which is you gotta be client oriented and care more about the partnership and care about what you're providing with the client rather than just taking the money of the client. And I think this is one of the things that you showed you showed us now when I asked if you are trying to take over the market and work with anyone where it speaks Kafka. You stopped me and said no. We need to know if you are trying to solve the productivity problems, if you are enterprise grad and you have these kind of problems. If you don't have them, then there's no need for us to advance in the pipeline of sales. And I think um, we had a great run with this interview. Went from the very beginning of the sales pipeline, which is the discovery phase, and then the prospection, which is the prospection, the discovery, and the POC. And now we are at the very late stage where we are talking about the augmenting of the client and the enhancement of productivity. What is the final step in that pipeline that we can talk about in the remaining 2 minutes that we have?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, then the next step is really all about implementation, and that would be also the customer success.
Mm.
So what we do with our customers, we really have an approach where everyone is all hands on deck to help the customers. So that would be from the sales team to the support team and the engineers that develop the product.
Mm.
So we make sure that we help you implement the product, and that the product is functional for the users. Then we help with enablement to make sure that you have the adoptions of the users. So that would be training on site or virtually, so what the features, so everyone knows what the features are. That would be also getting feedback from customers, and those feedbacks it's sessions that we run. We ask questions. What would you like to see in the product? What doesn't work, or what could be optimized? And then we come back with, this is a draft of what we think we're going to have in the next release. Do you want this in the next release? So the customers are happy because they get the features they ask for, and we build that partnership, so that when we come back with, the next step, which is the renewal, like, do you want to continue and buy this software again? We actually make sure that the customer is successful and has and wants to renew, right? Wants to continue. Every year we have to reprove ourselves, basically.
Yeah. Ismail, listen, we had a great run today. We talked about many subjects. I think the hour went by without us feeling it. I think this is your first podcast, right? This is the first time you went on a podcast.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a blast. Different from, the conversation I would have normally, but I think it was great. I love the questions,
Yeah.
and it's true that software sales is not a very wide known domain. So I was glad that I was able to also share how it
Yeah.
works.
Thank you for all the insights that you have shared with us, and we wish you good success with your new adventures. And we should replan a new session together in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of new things coming up with lenses. We have events coming up. Please reach out. Go on lenses.io if you want to look at our content and the events that we have. And I'd be glad to come back and talk about all of the new things that we're releasing.
Yeah, thank you. And we forgot to mention you are based in London, but you move all around Europe, right?
Yeah, so I'm based in London. I move all around Europe. Yeah, you can catch me at Confluent event. We'll be also doing AWS reInvent this year. So yeah, you can catch me in this type of everywhere where there is Kafka.
Catch me if you can, right? Thank you very much again, Ismail, and it's been a pleasure talking with you. And thank you everyone who's watching or rewatching the video later. And see you in the next one.
See you. Bye.